All right, here we go. Episode number 4 with the MAREI PartnerCast. This is John Myers and James Gregg, and we're here with Dave Greene with Accurate Title Company. And we're here to bring you another good interview of local businesses around Kansas City and see how they're doing during this pandemic. And also, Dave's here to fill us in on what he does for title work and maybe even give us some pointers and tips. Dave, do you want to? Thanks for joining us.
Sure.
Everyone's stuck at home, so it's a good time to, get some marketing out there and keep connected to the real estate group. Did you want to go ahead and start with an introduction of yourself, and then you can go into your business and services, and then we'll bounce back questions after that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thanks for having me on, guys. As John said, my name is Dave Greene. I'm with Accurate Title Company here in Kansas City. A little bit of a rewind on my life and how I got to where I am at. I grew up in Iowa to the family of people in the title business up there and in the real estate business. Went to college, swore I didn't want to be part of it, and got out of college. I had to pay for some mistakes I made in life, and so I joined a title company just to make some money. And fast forward, I moved down to Kansas City in 2009. I was working at the time for that title company I joined out of college on a more national level, and moved down here in 2009 and kept doing that until 2015. And Accurate Title was brought about, and so I joined on with Accurate Title in 2015. And we've grown quite a bit in the 5 years, not without bumping our head for sure. We started off with just a handful of employees, and now we're over 15 and several different offices. And we work kind of on all segments, quite honestly, real heavy into the investor market of all different types, shape, size, model, retail as well. Obviously, we work with lenders, attorneys, or foreclosure firms, and commercial as well. So that's kind of a real quick summary of who I am, I guess. But yeah, work with quite a few investors of all different models and size.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just going to say, if you go to your website, it should be accuratetitle.co.com. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yep.
And,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just saying under services, I was just looking at all these other services that you guys provide. Definitely a lot of them, and probably many people not necessarily won't hit on everyone, but definitely offer a extensive view of products. So
yeah, yep, and we do 1031s and things like that. But we've got an old website up right now, so the new one's coming out with a bunch of different resources as well shortly.
Sounds good.
Very cool. Dave, while John's perusing your website there, I think he's looking for some hidden treasures. But one title question that I really want to ask, I'm excited to have you on the show here. Normally we think of title as like almost a necessary evil. Like it's just part of it. You don't really think about what goes on until something bad happens, right? So before we pushed record, we started talking about, so maybe you can give us some more info here on like foreclosures, auctions, tax sales, those types of things, because that seems like something that the title could really make or break the transaction, but I think so many people don't even know the questions to ask.
Right. Yeah. So, outside of your conventional way of buying, whether it be directly to the seller, if you're an investor, or perhaps a wholesaler, or retail with a realtor, there are options to buy a property, whether it be through foreclosure auction, a tax sale, or maybe an estate auction with an auctioneer or something along those lines. Different challenges or hurdles with each, and they do differ, but there are similarities. The foreclosures are a little more structured, and what I mean by that is that they've got requirements from the lender on what they can approve as far as the sale price. A lot of times, if you're going to like an auction, things like that. And there are redemption rights to keep in mind when we're working in our markets with Missouri and Kansas that can kind of throw a wrench in plans. On those, I always suggest, educate yourself a little bit on foreclosure auctions, kind of know what you're getting into or what you might be getting into, just so you can ask appropriate questions or do your diligence or research up front. A common thing around this part of the country are tax sales. We have a lot of people that buy property at tax sale. The challenge is there. They're a lot more. Well, first of all, they're a lot more common as far as what we see than the foreclosure auctions, simply because there's more of them. I believe the tax sale auctions, they can be great buys. But here's what I warn people or suggest to people they check into is that if you buy a property at tax sale, yeah, you own the property. There is no issue, or there shouldn't be an issue type thing. However, it's not insurable from a title insurance aspect. Yes, and keep in mind, title insurance is not property insurance. Yep. Title insurance is marketability of the title. So what we require, if you buy it and you want an owner's policy, or you go to sell the property, maybe you buy it at tax sale, 40 cents on the dollar, you want to put some equity into it and sell it at retail price. That's great and wonderful. However, it's likely going to require what's called a quiet title suit. And what a quiet title suit is you would need to contact an attorney to bring it to court to get a quiet title suit issued and closed. Why they do that, or I guess what they're doing is they're basically serving notice to anyone that may have rights in that property, so that if they have any sort of claim or they want to say, nope, that's my property, I didn't know we were delinquent on taxes, that's their last chance. After the quiet title certificate's issued, it's yours, and we're able to issue title insurance based off of that.
Okay.
Why they do that? Go ahead.
Is that a process that you would want to start right away? And also, is that something that your office could help facilitate?
Yeah. So I suggest, when people buy them, I say, great, obviously, but what's your plan with it? If you're going to live in it for the next 30 years, then chances are you probably don't need to do anything. Now, if you want to rehab it, or maybe you just bought it so cheap that you think you can sell it, next month and make a lot of money, then yeah, you want to start the quiet title suit. You can certainly come to us. We can refer you to several different attorneys that we work with. Again, it doesn't matter who you work with, but you'll need like a real estate attorney to represent you in that quiet title suit to make sure that notice is served and things like that. So yeah, it kind of depends on what you want to do with the property. If you're looking to move it, I suggest you jump on it. If you're going to live in it forever, then you're probably okay.
Okay.
And everyone asks, how long does it take, or how much does it cost? That's a better question for your attorney versus the title company. They can take weeks, months. It just depends on what happens in that suit. And as far as the cost, that's something to ask the attorney. We've been told anywhere from $900 to $2,500 typically. I know that's a wide delta, but there are filing fees and things like that as well, and court costs. So those are better questions for your attorney. We can tell you what we're told, but just because it's this today, tomorrow could be something different.
Okay. Thanks.
You bet.
Have you ever had, I assume it's pretty rare for people to come back on that title insurance?
Well, yeah, if there's a defect or there's something wrong, or maybe someone comes out of the woodwork and says, hey, you're in my house, get out, then yeah, that's why you have title insurance. You would want to come back to whoever issued your title policy and say, hey, I had a guy knock on the door, say this is his house, or there's a lien filed against my property that from 2 years ago, I just bought the house 6 months ago, what's going on? And then that's what we would have to do. We'd have to check into the issue. If there's a grounds for a claim, then you would file a claim just as you would with homeowners insurance. It's investigated, it's reviewed, and then your coverage is as applicable, I guess.
How's coverage determined, actually, just broadly in number?
So your insurance is typically based off your sales price. So if you're buying the house for $100,000, that's your coverage amount.
Makes sense.
So if you buy a house for say $20,000 or $30,000 and you spend $70,000 on it,
well, right.
Could you be in a sticky situation there, even if you
your owner's policy is covered? Yes, is limited to the amount of the purchase. So if you're spending your own cash on it on top of it, that's a business decision for you to make. Most times people will get like a loan policy, and that's insuring the lender. There's two different types of policies. There's an owner's policy, which is protecting the rights and the ownership of the property to the new buyer. And then there's another policy, which is called a loan policy, and that's protecting the lender, their position in the property, should it go to foreclosure? Basically, they have their first dibs on the money. Should it go for sale, or maybe burn down or something along those lines? So they are ensuring basically their priority or their rights to that property as far as getting money back out should things go south.
Interesting. Would you say probably finding liens and encumbrances, are those the main issues that you find with like when you're doing title work?
Yeah, so we're checking a whole gamut of ideas or different things. So we are checking the ownership history. We are checking liens, encumbrances, judgments, things like that would basically not give clear marketable title to the buyer, right? So when we're checking ownership, we are making out, we're checking to make sure did all owners sign the deed? Because you could have a husband and wife, maybe husband deeded to the next borrower, but the wife didn't. Well, there's marital rights here. So that wife would still own an interest in that property because she didn't deed out. So we're checking, the whole flow of ownership, all prior liens like mortgages, could be a variety of things there. We're making sure there's not judgments, whether it be a tax lien or a judgment in maybe a court case. We're checking to make sure taxes are paid. And if they're not paid, we're collecting those at closing and paying so taxes are current. If maybe there's a divorce or a death, we're applying whatever underwriting measures we have to apply in order to give clear marketable title to the buyer.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like there's a lot of nooks and crannies you guys need to dig through to make sure everything's good to go.
Yeah, it's certainly not a push of a button.
Yeah, for sure.
No kidding. So with all those, I'm curious, and I'll let John ask a couple questions here eventually. I'm curious, what things should buyers and people that are using your services be aware of or look for, kind of as they're interacting with you and interfacing with you? Just again, title is something that a lot of folks just don't know about.
No, right. Yeah. So things to look out for, especially like in the investor market. I always suggest people, if you're meeting with, say, a lady or a gentleman, either or, ask the question of, is your spouse around? Are you married? Because if they passed away, chances are we're going to need something to clear that deceased party. Kansas and Missouri are different on how you do it, but regardless, we may need that death information or death certificate. So it's a good question to ask up front, and obviously be tactful in how you approach that. Things like that, or, hey, do you happen to know, do you have a mortgage against the property or anything like that? I can get to the title company to help speed this up so we can get closed quicker. Oh, you said you got divorced, or you're in the middle of a divorce, is that settled yet? Because if not, then that could delay closing because there's not an order. That's probably situational based. Just, basically hinting around or trying to poke the bear, for lack of a better term, on things that may cloud their ownership. Something else that's good to ask would be, how long have you owned the property? And, do you have any paperwork from when you bought the property from that title company? Because that will also help speed things up. And in some cases, it can get you maybe a reduced cost as a seller. Because if they've got all their paperwork, maybe that's pushing us along. So we have a more recent start date, for lack of a better term. Basically getting as much information about that seller as you can without being too much, and also letting them know that, hey, I'm going to use Accurate Title. They are going to reach out to you in the next day or two to gather some information about you. If you don't want to give it to me now, that's perfectly fine. I understand. I respect your privacy, but you can expect them to reach out, ask for some basic information as well. Maybe have you fill out a form so they can get payoff for your current mortgage. If you don't want to go through that hassle, they're going to ask you for it. They may ask you for the last four of your social, especially on a common name if we're trying to rule out, say, judgments or a tax lien. Basically educating them so they know what to expect so they're not getting caught off guard. You've warned them as the investor of, hey, this is going to likely happen. They're going to call you. It just seems like if everyone's transparent with each other or tries to educate each other, things just typically go smooth that way.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. And obviously, sounds like it's easiest that the buyer and seller side maybe go through one company if possible, but it sounds like it doesn't matter if there's two different title companies involved for the
we do a lot of split closings, and what I mean by split closings are we might be closing the seller and issuing that owner's policy, but the buyer may be closing with XYZ title, who's closing the buyer and insuring that loan policy. The two title companies, they'll work hand in hand with each other. That's certainly not uncommon. However, if you're a cash buyer, there's really nothing to be insured on your end. So you're going to close with the seller's title company because there's no reason to split it. There's nothing really to insure. So I think it's kind of like a unwritten rule, for lack of a better term, amongst the title companies around town that, yeah, if you're a cash buyer and we have nothing to insure on your behalf, just close that seller title company because, chances are you're going to have an expense for something that, it's higher than what it may be if you just close with the same company.
Sounds good.
Yep.
And 1031 exchanges, None, you mentioned a little bit about that. I believe they extended those 1031 exchanges. I guess, I don't know, it's based on as soon as you started the process. Are those pretty common going on right now, or are those on hold?
We've got, I believe it's just a handful right now kind of in the hopper, quite honestly. So to give you like a broad market look is probably unfair. To my knowledge, they're still going on. Yeah, there might be some extensions or things like that, given the current climate we're in. We see them more typically in the commercial arena than we do residential for a couple of different reasons. But yeah, we still have a few of them ongoing right now, but just probably not enough to speak too fairly on a broad scope.
As far as how you guys are being affected, do you see business slowing down a little bit just because obviously people aren't, doing the buy and closing thing right now because people aren't going to do the showings? Is it stable? I wonder if it's going to, blast off as soon as they lift the quarantine.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts there?
Yeah. So, speaking for myself, for our company, we haven't slowed down. If anything, we've gotten busier. And yeah, March, part of that is due to the refi boom we saw in March, so there was a flood of orders just on refinance. The purchases have still been strong, both investor wise and in the retail market or retail space with agents. We have not seen the slowdown yet. We've had a few deals fall apart that were tied to financing, whether that's a refinance or a purchase. Maybe they verified the employment right before closing and that person unfortunately lost their job. We've seen a couple of those. But big picture, no, we haven't seen a slowdown. You asked me again that same question in 45, 60 days. It might be different then because things are starting to maybe check up a little bit.
Yep.
But the title world, the closing world are always usually 30, 45, 60 days behind what's going on now. So right now it's gangbusters right now, but ask me that again in a month and a half, 2 months, and it may be a little bit different answer.
Right. Should be seeing more economic reports out there. And I assure you, the information won't look that nice in the upcoming months, just from what we're hearing now.
Yeah. And I do
live though.
Yeah, I agree. I do think that, whenever things get halfway back to normal, and I know that's a pretty gray area, uncertain term or timeline right now, I do think, unfortunately, due to the circumstances we're in now, I could see a heavy, heavy flood of people needing to sell their house so they don't lose in a foreclosure or a tax sale maybe. So I think your investor market will be very, very active when things open back up. Especially the cash buyers that aren't going to be necessarily confined or requiring of lending, especially from banks, if they can have their private financing or truly be cash. I think you'll have some good opportunity in volume and dollar wise when things open back up.
Interesting. Yeah, that's for sure. James and I, work on the commercial multifamily side, and we know firsthand that commercial lending has tightened up. So, and I know it has a little bit for residential, but probably not as much in the commercial side. But
Right.
yeah, we suspect there should be some deals coming down in a couple months. There's definitely no deals right out there on the MLS. I don't see everybody going out there and picking up, 2008, 2010 deals. That's for sure.
Right. No, I don't think we're there.
So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see. You got, aside from just the current atmosphere that's going on right now, that's the big talk, the pandemic and how it's affected everybody. It's definitely doing it in different ways, and it sounds like it's lagging. Do you see any industry changes or anything exciting coming up in your industry? Is it going to be, pretty much the same? Nothing, technology's not changing it. Government's not making any new laws. Anything new there?
Oh, no. I think that's one bright side for our industry, is that we're seeing changes that are, quite honestly, in my opinion, probably a little overdue. And we're getting forced to propel into what the future is going to look like. And what I mean are a variety of things. So since this pandemic started, obviously we're adhering to CDC recommendations and different recommendations of governing bodies, whether that's local government or perhaps our title insurance underwriters, on how to conduct business. So, like, for example, our closings, we're trying to encourage the drive-by or drive-through or curbside closing, where your buyer or seller come through, they've already reviewed the docs through a prior phone call, they're signing and getting out type thing. It's a bang type thing. Now they are still allowed to come into closings. We're trying to discourage that, but if they come in, it's only the signers are allowed. So no agent. Yep, no agent, no lender. No mom or dad, unfortunately. We're only the people that need to come in to sign are allowed in those situations. Some industry changes that have already come about are that there are the governing bodies of the insurance companies and the local counties and the states are allowing what's called a RON closing, and that means a remote online notification. So what that's allowing you to do as buyer or seller is do your closing through a couple different ways. So the national level is this online notarization. So we send you documents, we upload them to this website. You are sitting at your couch at home. You're basically logging into this account and doing your closing over the iPad, over your cell phone. You have to have a camera. There will be a notary on the other side that witnesses you sign. Everything's signed electronically. You're done. You get a copy of your signed documents. We get a copy of the signed documents. That notary gets a copy of the signed documents. We record, and you're all said and done. So that's digital, and that's something that has not been allowed till now. Something recently, just as of last week, got passed in Missouri and Kansas. It's similar to that process, although they're wanting us, our underwriters are wanting us to overnight the documents to the buyer or seller. We then schedule a time to close, like today at 3:00. We get on the phone and say, John, you ready for your closing? And you say, yep. And we close just like this. We're closing basically over a Zoom call. Okay, so we're witnessing you sign. You sign everything. We go over questions or the documents as needed. You then sign. You drop back in the overnight. It comes back to us. We record them. How that's different is that until now, we've always had to be in the presence of the signer. The notary has been. So that would require John to be in his car right in front of me, or John in the office with me, and I have to witness him sign. So that's a little bit different. They're getting a little more progressive on that. That's only approved temporarily through, I believe, May 15th. However, our insurance companies are only allowing it through April 30th. But the digital signing is a little bit different in that we are allowed to close that way. There is an additional expense because we have to pay this online third party to do the notary, but the counties are allowing them to be recorded and things like that. However, the downside to those digital signings are that most lenders are not allowing or approving those. So they really only work on the seller side unless you're a cash buyer. If you've got a lender, they're not, most lenders are not approving the online notarization. They're still requiring ink on the docs. So it kind of comes down to transaction by transaction. But if you're borrowing money, chances are you're either going to have to do it over a Zoom call like this temporarily, or you're still going to have to sign in front of a notary somehow, some way.
I think one thing that's definitely good to come out of this is that we're kind of forced to use technology and get in the current century instead of, faxes or any other type of old school mail. So, that is a good thing. I mean, I think it happened years ago, but it's inevitable.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at just the notarization process in general, whether it's for a closing or for anything else, my opinion, maybe I'm a little progressive here, or maybe a little overly progressive, is that it's an archaic way of doing things in today's world with all our technology we have.
Encryption, yeah.
I mean, the thought of having to sign it in front of somebody else just seems so old school to me. There's got to be a better way. I know there's better ways. We just got to get them approved through legislation to allow those, those technologies to serve us. So I think it's a good thing. Yeah, it's temporary right now. It's going to get pulled back, but with any luck, this is the future of closing. You'll close from your couch.
Interesting.
Nice. Interesting. That sounds like a great slogan too. Close from your
couch. Right.
I need a website. You just created it.
That's right. Close from your couch.
Love it. Well, we're getting pretty close on our time here, Dave. So before we wrap up, I just wanted to ask again. We want to serve the members, serve the group and the community with these interviews. So, any last minute gotchas or tips that you would provide for consumers and buyers and sellers of real estate as they're working with title companies?
Yeah, for sure. So just some things to be on the lookout for, kind of big picture. Pandemic or no pandemic, wire fraud is so rampant right now. People are trying to hack instructions or manipulate wire instructions to rob you, basically. So, one general rule of thumb is if you're wiring money to that title company, or anyone for that matter, verify those instructions. You get them by an email, you're expecting them to come by email, but pick up the phone and call. We've got company policy, as does I think probably every other title company, that if you're giving me wire instructions online, encrypt or not encrypt, we're still going to call you back a number that's good to verify that you did send those. So protect your money. That's something. Maybe some circling back to those upfront questions with your sellers. Asking good questions up front may help either speed up a process or tell you that, hey, this transaction is going to require some time. It's not going to close in 14 days. It's going to be probably 6 months because they got to clear a deceased estate. I think asking good questions up front is critical. That will help all the way around, all parties. Everything from death to divorce to maybe children in play. Things like that. I think questions are the big thing. And then as far as when it comes time to close, protect your money. Make that extra step to call and verify. If you're not verifying and your money goes off to some foreign country, to some third party, that's on you and you're not protected. So, protect your money. It's what you've worked hard to earn in order to buy a property.
Gotcha. Thanks. Good tips.
Another thing I should point out is, we're really pushing the online Earnest money right now, whether that's $10 or $20,000. Go on, like we've got online on our webpage, we've got a button you click to pay your Earnest money. You submit all your money online, your account, your routing number, the amount, the property address, so we can tie it back. That's one more thing to keep you from having to either A, mail a check, or B, come in, or C, send a wire, which costs you money. Pay it online, keep it simple. You're going to get a receipt just as if you dropped off a check type thing. That's just one more way to kind of keep yourself safe and healthy, and, one less trip, and you're still going to get confirmation. It's still good funds and things like that.
Gotcha. Cool. That's a nice perk too.
Yeah. Yep.
Now that you brought it up, I was like, yeah, why have we been bringing in checks this whole time and not just paying it online?
Yeah. Again, it's a past our time type way of doing it. Obviously in today's world, everything's a lot more accessible and available to do. So, I encourage it. It's not required. If you're closing within 10 days, you're still gonna have to get a cashier's check or a wire because those are good funds. Whereas if it's a personal check, it's got to hold or season for 10 days. So if you're trying to do a real quick close, that online payment's not going to work. You're still going to have to send a wire or cashier's check. But if you've got a typical 30-day contract, then yeah, that should work.
Sounds good. Cool. Well, James, I think you said you're good.
Yeah.
We've
Yeah.
definitely learned a lot.
No kidding.
We
Great.
appreciate it, Dave. I think that should be good to go. Go ahead and give the viewers your contact information, website. I think you guys probably have a Facebook page, those things.
Sure. Yeah. So again, my name is Dave Greene. I'm with Accurate Title Company. We have 3 different offices around the city, Missouri and 2 in Missouri, 1 in Kansas. They're all interchangeable. So if you're working with someone in the Kansas office and you want to close up north because that's easier, that's fine. They're all interchangeable. Our website is www.accuratetitle.co.com. Facebook page is Accurate Title Company as well. Both of them are kind of going under some construction right now. So new website will be out. The new Facebook page has just recently been published. Fire away, ask questions if you got them. My email is dgreene@accuratetitle.co.com. We've been a MAREI member since inception, and it's been a good organization to us, and we like to give back or help any way we can, no strings attached type thing.
Yeah, sounds good. And I've only heard good things about Dave, and I did a closing with him. Everything went smooth. A lot of investors work with you guys, so
Right.
it shouldn't be an issue. So sounds good. Well, thanks again for joining us, and we'll let everyone get back to their day. Thanks, guys.
Perfect. I appreciate it, guys.
Thanks, Dave.
Bye.
Thank you.